The NFC Championship is here as the Detroit Lions travel to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. My two best bets of the day, as well as an underdog fantasy parlays at the end of this video. Let's dive into it. My name's Austin from Calling Our Shot. We have a separate video for the other AFC Championship game that will be between the Chiefs and the Ravens. My favorite picks posted right before this one. You can check it out, link down below. Let's recap how we did last week, though. Solid week, 5-3, plus a little over 1.5 units. We certainly will take that. Let's hopefully go 4-0 on this Sunday wildcard NFC Championship weekend. I mean, it's going to be a doozy. We should have a lot of great games trying to get a trip to the Super Bowl. Normally this weekend delivers, and hopefully my picks deliver just that. Before we dive into it, I want to talk about a free square that is currently being offered on Underdog Fantasy. It is only for new users, and it is for Christian McCaffrey to get 1 yard. Yeah, I think CMC is all right. I think he certainly can get you 1 yard. So if you want to make sure you get that free square, make sure you use our code COS or the link in the description. You'll get a match on your first deposit up to $100, and you will get that CMC free square. I'll talk about an Underdog Fantasy entry at the end of this video that you certainly could throw in the CMC free square in there for you. I obviously can't because I'm not a new user, but if you are a new user, make sure you use our code COS. But without further ado, let's dive into the picks though today. Like I said, if you want to go check out how I feel about that Ravens and Chiefs game, that video will be linked down in the pinned comment and at the end of this one. But I really like the picks we got going on today because we have a Lions same game parlay coming at the end of the video. We are 8-0 on Lions SGPs this season. We're going to try to go to 9-0, but I'll leave that. I'll leave a little bit of a teaser because we'll wait for that because I'm going to the first pick of the day. Christian McCaffrey. I like his over 34.5 receiving yards, minus 110 on FanDuel. Now, I would take this up to 37.5. I was going back and forth on CMC receiving yards or his receptions. Obviously, they kind of go hand in hand. Now, obviously, if we're talking about CMC and the 49ers playing host to the Lions, don't really have any weather concerns here. And honestly, you're looking at CMC. We know he's a workhorse back, and we'll see about Deebo Samuel. He was off the injury report. How active will he be? That remains to be seen, how much he plays. But this season, the Lions have allowed the fewest rushing yards to opposing running backs. So I don't see CMC having a ton of success on the ground. Obviously, it's still the 49ers, one of the best rushing attacks in the league. I really think that they're going to find ways to get the ball into CMC's hands. And you look at CMC on the year, if you just took this every game, not at a bet with great hit rate. CMC is only over this 34.5 receiving yards, only 6 of 17 games. Now, one of the games he did end with 34, which would be painful on the hook. Last week, though, 7 receptions, 12 targets for 30 yards. You told me what, 7 receptions this week? I'd probably put 5 units on this because I don't think CMC is getting 7 receptions again and going under. And I think he's going to see plenty of volume and obviously a game that will dictate if the 49ers can make it to the Super Bowl. So, you know, Brock Purdy, he's been really good this season. And a lot of people want to attack Brock Purdy. I'm not here to talk about that or here or there, but it is worth noting. I mean, we're in an NFC Championship game. Will he be a little bit more conservative and not try to take deep shots, maybe add additional risk? Certainly could be the case. Maybe we see an extra target or 2 to CMC. If you're looking on the season, the Lions haven't allowed a ton of receptions to running backs, but when they have gotten receptions, they have pretty good games. Lions have allowed 8.9 yards per reception to running backs. And you look at CMC's receptions, Lions hitting at 4.5, a little bit of juice on the over. You do the math there. If you can get 4 receptions, which is pretty juice, 4 times 9, that's 36 yards. Boom. We cashed out. But I really think that they just haven't seen a lot of receiving backs. And I think that's why the receptions lines to running backs have not been that high. Because this season, 5 running backs have had 4 receptions against Detroit. They ended with 27, 31, 36, 48, and 58 yards. Only one of those guys had 5 receptions. So CMC, a lot of those guys didn't even hit his receptions line. But you look at CMC, the only guy that hit his receptions line had 5 or more receptions with Alvin Kamara, and he had 6 for 58. I really think this is a good spot to back CMC out of the backfield. We know he's arguably, if not the best, running back out of the backfield in the NFL. You think about Alvin Kamara, he's up in that conversation. Austin Eckler in that conversation. Both those guys hit this over against the Lions. Lions obviously going to be focused on slowing down George Kittle, slowing down the run, slowing down Brandon Ayuk. I think CMC leaks out of the backfield. We've always seen them, maybe put a little wrinkle into his routes, and where, you might see him go up and kind of out. Sometimes the linebacker bites on the out and he goes upfield and he can get this over nearly in 1 reception. So I really think CMC's in for a big day in the air. Don't love his rushing yards prop, but I really do like him in the air. I like his over 34.5 receiving yards as my first pick of the day. Now my second pick, what you all came for, baby. It's time for the Lions. Same game parlay. We were 8-0 on them this season. We were trying to move to 9-0. Unreal, but let's dive into it. It is going to be plus 103 on FanDuel, risking 1 unit on this play. I want to note there is a quick link if you're placing this on FanDuel, which is obviously where I placed it. You can definitely go down below. First link, it'll say Lions same game parlay. You can click it. It'll take you to another website, automatically load in all the legs for you on FanDuel, so it saves you a little bit of time instead of having to go through each of them and pick and choose it. Let's talk with this parlay, though. We got Jahmyr Gibbs for 25 rush yards. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 50 receiving yards. Brandon Ayuk, 40-plus receiving yards. And George Kittle, 3 receptions. If you have to take Ayuk at 50 receiving yards, I like it there too. Ayuk, you better not sell us. Now, let's talk about Jahmyr Gibbs first. If we're going to go down, we're going to go with the guy that has always been delivering for us. He has 25 rush yards in 15 straight games. Last week, 9 rush attempts for 74 yards. We saw the 49ers have a little bit exposed on the rushing defense. Last week, Aaron Jones had a big day, and I don't really think you can run north and south against him. I think you kind of have to go to the perimeter, which is where Jones had a lot of success, kind of on those sweeps or counter type plays. I really think that's where Gibbs is the best guy here. Obviously, Gibbs super fast. If he hits a hole, he probably gets 25 rush yards and nearly 1 rush. I really do think that this is a good spot to back Gibbs. Also, worth noting, he typically starts the second half. So if they are trailing, he normally starts that first drive. And I really do think that could be maybe where he comes through. I don't think they'll abandon the run until maybe into the fourth quarter if they're down by, a couple touchdowns. But I really like Gibbs. If we're going to go down, I'll go down with the guy that's been in literally every single Lions SGP. Same as St. Brown. He's been in nearly all of them too. 50 plus receiving yards, something he's done in 16 of 18 games. Not been as good on the road, but still averaging 86 receiving yards. He's still an absolute beast. Like they put him in so many different spots. He will find ways to get open, and they will find ways to get the ball to him. So, he's Goff's number one guy. I'm not going to overcomplicate it. Like I said, if I'm going to lose on a Lions same game parlay, I'm going to lose with Gibbs and St. Brown, two guys that have been really consistent for us. Next, we move to the 49ers side of the equation. I'll talk about both these guys at the same time. George Kittle, 3+ receptions. That's something he's done in 14 of 17 this season, including 7 of 8 at home. And Brandon Ayuk, 40 receiving yards, something he's done in 14 of 17 as well. And he has only had 3 receptions for 32 yards last week. As we talked about Deebo Samuel, no idea what his status will be here. I mean, he's supposed to play. How many snaps does he play? We don't know. But what I do know is the Lions secondary has really struggled, and I really think they're going to allow a lot of yards in the air. I mean, Brock Purdy's line's at 275.5, and if he's going to be throwing it, the 3 guys that he's probably throwing it to, Kittle, Ayuk, and our first bet of the day, CMC. So I really like all these guys. I almost did CMC for 3 or more receptions. You certainly could do that, but I really like the same game parlay. Hopefully if it's the last Lions SGP of the year, certainly appreciate all your service. We will be back later on in September to do more Lions SGPs because they've been an absolute wagon. But I really do like this Lions same game parlay. Let's try to move to 9-0. If they make the Super Bowl, we will try to move to 10-0, which would be nuts. I'll wrap up the video with an Underdog fantasy entry that I'll put up on the side of the screen. A reminder, they have the CMC free square for him to get 1 yard. He's doing that. You can get that if you use code COS or the link in the description. You also get a match on your first deposit up to $100. Take advantage of it. CMC higher than 36.5 pass yards. That's the first leg. Brock Purdy higher than 276.5 passing yards. I like that. Jahmyr Gibbs higher than 3.5 receptions. And then one pick I almost picked as a straight bet, David Montgomery higher than 10.5 rushing attempts. Now, this will turn $25 into over $200. I like that. I'm not going to talk about Gibbs a ton. I mean, he had 4 receptions at both playoff games. I'm probably going to have to throw it here. I like Brock Purdy, obviously. QBs against the Lions have been a wagon. Why do I like David Montgomery higher than 10.5 rush attempts? Well, the line opened at 13.5. People bet it down to 10.5. I really don't think they're that far off on these rush attempts lines. I think if the Lions are going to remain competitive in this game, it is trying to establish the run. If they turn it into a Goff, hey, we need Goff masterclass, I don't think that's a recipe for success. That plays basically right into the hand of the 49ers. They can tee off their defensive line and say, hey, go rush the quarterback. That's not the recipe here. I think David Montgomery, 10.5 rush attempts is the line he could hit in the first half. They get some success there, and I really think they can run it on them. I mean, they faced the Rams and the Bucs, 2 really good rush defenses. Sure, the 49ers have been pretty good this year. A lot of it due to them being in big leads and teams not really running it a ton. I think Montgomery could get over 10.5 rush attempts. So if you want who I think wins this game, I think it's the 49ers. I'll be rooting for the Lions just because they're a good story. I think the 49ers win this one. Covering the 7.5, going to be tough, but we'll see exactly how that goes. If you want to know my favorite picks, though, for the AFC Championship, we have the Ravens and Lions. That video is linked on the screen. Go check it out. Not sure we'll do a Sunday parlay video, but if we do, it will be linked on the screen as well as hopefully, the ladder challenge if we are continuing that, which we probably are. Hopefully we move to day 3 as we're still in the midst of going through day 2. You guys have a wonderful day. Go check out that other video. Let's dominate and have a wonderful weekend of football. And of course, we'll be back for the Super Bowl. Stay tuned for that. It's Austin signing out. Peace.